Hey everybody. So I want to talk about some teams right now that really need to start playing pissed off. These are teams that have not had good starts or are going through real rough patches, and they need to start playing like it really matters, like they care, and really light a fire in themselves to turn things around and get back on the right track. Um, you know, being a Bruins fan, I got to watch, I watch a lot of Bruins games every year, and I noticed that those Bruins teams from the late 2000s and early 2010s, whenever they went through a rough patch, a really physical game usually got them out of it. They would get really angry. They'd have a game that was just full of fights and scrums and all sorts of, physical stuff going on, and then they'd usually win that game and they'd play better coming out of it. And that happened multiple times for the Bruins, 10, 12 years ago, or even, between like 12 and 8 years ago. That was pretty much how they got out of slumps. And then we saw it with the Flyers. The Flyers have done it a couple times in recent history. One was the year that they had the big brawl with Washington, where Ray Emery beat the crap out of Braden Holtby, and they had the line brawl. And Philly was playing like absolute garbage before that happened, and then that helped turn their season around. They did it again against Pittsburgh, where they had lost, I forget the number, but they had lost against Pittsburgh a lot of times in a row. And then they had a 4-fight game against the Penguins, won that game, and finally beat Pittsburgh. So teams in the past, I'm sure that other teams have had games like that where they've had just fight-filled, nasty games where they've finally gotten so frustrated and angry that they've just taken it out on somebody, and that's completely turned things around, and they've gone on good runs after that. The Flyers and Bruins are just the two instances that came to mind when I think about this, but I'm sure that other teams that I don't get to watch all the time have done the same thing. So these are teams right now that had expectations going into this season, aren't playing well, either have bad records or are on losing streaks, and I think really need to start to get angry and take that anger out, get frustrated, get pissed off, have a game like that. Now, nowadays you're probably not going to have a 5 or 6 fight game with a brawl in it, but you can still have a 2 or 3 fight game that really, gets your team out of this slump. And for these teams, I think they need to have one of those games and really let their frustrations out and get things turned around. Show some damn emotion, because there is no emotion left in the NHL regular season anymore. The regular season is not nearly as good as it used to be. A lot of these games now are just flat out boring and slow, and not slow. It's all about speed and skill now, but nobody's physical. They're very boring. They're sleepy games to watch. These teams, they need to be sick of playing sleepy games because they're not playing very well right now. So they need a nasty game to get them woken up and get things headed back in the right direction. The first team is the Philadelphia Flyers. I've talked a lot about them this season. They lost again last night to the Boston Bruins. They've now lost 2 games in a row and have dropped to 4-6 on the season. Philly started to show frustration last night. There were a lot of scrums in that game, especially the third period. The third period got really nasty. There were no actual fights where fighting majors were handed out, but there was a lot of scrums, a lot of cross-checking and slashing after the whistles, a lot of jawing back and forth between players. Philly showed their frustration. They need to really take it out on somebody and turn things around. And I think their best chance to do it is tomorrow's game against the New York Islanders. Divisional opponent, rivalry game, and playing a team with a fairly tough lineup. The Islanders have Matt Martin. If I were the Islanders, I would dress both Matt Martin and Ross Johnston tomorrow. Usually it's been one or the other in the lineup, with Martin getting most of the games and then Johnston coming in for Martin when he gets into the lineup. If I were the Islanders, I would absolutely play both Martin and Johnston tomorrow, because that game could get real nasty. Philly looked downright angry at the end of the Boston game last night. I think they're going to come out with a huge chip on their shoulder against the Islanders, as they should. and really that could be a really nasty game. Another team is Florida. They are not off to a good start. They're 2-3-3. They pulled that win in their last game out at the end, but they were down 2-0 in that game. Came back to win 3-2 in overtime. They need to have a nasty game and really get things on the right track. If they win their next game, they're back to 500. They can kind of reset and regroup a little bit, but they have a chance to have a nasty game against New Jersey also tomorrow. New Jersey isn't an overly physical team, but they're a team that stands up for each other, and they have guys throughout the lineup that are willing to drop the gloves. Guys like Blake Coleman and Damon Severson and Miles Wood and some others. So Florida should show some emotion tomorrow against New Jersey. Anaheim started the season off great, but they've lost 4 in a row now, and that is just, I mean, that's got to get you ticked off. So they've dropped now to 5-5-1 after starting the season 5-1-1, and they need to show some emotion and get angry and stop this slide. And they have 2 chances to do it, both against bitter rivals. They can either do it Sunday against the San Jose Sharks, or they can do it November 6th when they play the LA Kings. More on that game coming up. But anytime those California teams play, it's usually a nasty game, and Anaheim should really be up for both of those games, and those should both be very physical games. Calgary, they got absolutely blown out by Pittsburgh last night, 9-1. Just an abysmal effort. They've lost 2 in a row. They've dropped to 5-5 on the season. This is a team that should be so much better than that. When you look at their roster and you look at their lineup, they should be so much better than that. And they continue to be disappointing. They were disappointing last year, and now they've had a disappointing start this season. They've got to get a fire lit under them. They are the Flames, and they're not playing like it. They have a chance to do it against the Anaheim Ducks on November 7th. The team, they played in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They're in the same division. They should be able to get up for that game. That would be the day after Anaheim plays the Kings. You got to assume that that's a physical game. So Anaheim might already be in angry physical game mode to begin with. Calgary needs to come in there and be that way as well. That could be a really nasty game. St. Louis has not had a good start to this season. They're 2-4-3 to start the year. They were supposed to be one of the most improved teams in the league. They need to start showing some emotion and getting angry. They haven't been all that physical. Even though they boast a pretty physical lineup, they haven't been yet this season. It's time to start to light a fire under them. They play their bitter rivals, the Chicago Blackhawks, for the 3rd time already this year, tomorrow. Not much nasty going on in their first 2 matchups. And I believe St. Louis lost both of them. But not much going on in those first games. It's your 3rd time playing this team already this year. Get angry, get physical, make that a nasty game. That could really help the Blues. And lastly, the LA Kings, off to an abysmal start. Probably the second worst team in the league so far, behind Detroit, who's the only team who's worse. The Kings are 2-7-1, and they have lost 6 games in a row. How embarrassing is that? They need to get things turned around and get things turned around fast. They are digging themselves a hole that is going to be hard to get out of. So when are they going to do it? Like I said earlier, they play the Anaheim Ducks on November 6th. Every time those 2 teams meet, it is nasty, physical, usually fight-filled hockey. Perfect opportunity. Turn that game into an all-out brawl, and it could probably help both teams. But these teams all need games like that to get some emotion in their game, get some energy in their game, and help turn their seasons around, because they have got to be frustrated and angry with the way that their seasons have started. So, use the Boston Bruins and Philadelphia Flyers tricks of just have a real physical, nasty game to turn things around. I've seen it work for so many teams throughout the league, and play with some damn emotion. Nobody does it in the regular season anymore. There are very few regular season games that have that fire and that downright nastiness and animosity between teams anymore. The regular season has gotten so bland over the last probably 2 or 3 years. And it sucks. It completely takes the fun out of watching regular season games if it's literally nothing but guys skating up and down the ice. Yeah, okay, just going through the motions. Get some damn emotion in the game. Get some energy in the game. Play physical and make it nasty. So, I think a nasty game would help all of those teams turn things around and get their seasons back on track. That's just what I think. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support Off the Wall Hockey on Patreon, the link is down in the description. Don't feel obligated to do so, but if you are willing and able, then it's much appreciated. So, thank you guys again. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.